Hello and welcome to another episode of Adela's Voice. Tonight, finally, I have the honor of having my friend Ahmed Shah Duranai join me as he had promised to do, and it didn't happen a few weeks ago, but I'm finally getting to interview you, Ahmed. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for making it on my show. I'm so excited to talk to you tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm sorry that there were events beyond my control when we had promised to meet face to face and then share our ideas with your audience. It didn't happen because I ended up to be in the hospital, and now how can I say Alhamdulillah in this show?
Sure, you can. Yeah, by the grace of God.
Everything is okay, and here I am, and I'm at your service.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I want our audience to know a little bit about you. And so I want you to introduce yourself, actually, but a little bit about Ahmed Shah. He's the best selling author of a fantastic book called Leadership Zone. And he's a master trainer of the communication skills, verbal Aikido. And you have a workshop coming up at the end, actually on March 7 and 8, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. I know that I'm going to be there. I'm so excited about that.
Well, thank you.
So tonight's actually talk is about the power of communication and how important it is in our lives, and how gaining tools makes us more capable of being better at communicating, because it's such an important part of our lives. So you're going to talk about that. I'm going to leave that to you. But first, there was a part of your book, and I had it highlighted on my screen, but now that we're recording, it's not allowing me to minimize the Zoom screen, unfortunately. But the passage went something like this: that you always, in the beginning of your seminars, ask the audience the difference between two words, childlike and childish. And you want them to be childlike. Why? Because you want them to be open to learning new ideas. And actually, I thought it was so cool. And I always feel like I'm childlike when it comes to learning. And so I want to invite everybody who is watching this or listening to this to open up and be childlike, so that you can learn a couple of new things tonight. And with that, I'm gonna open it to you, Ahmed. And my first question is this: why is communication so important in our lives?
Well, thank you, Adela, for this good question that you asked. Okay. My mentor and teacher, James McNeil, who is the founder of Verbal Aikido, he says that communication is almost everything, and almost everything communicates.
Say that again, one more time.
Communication is almost everything, and almost everything communicates.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's only through communication that we relate to everything in our surrounding, to our environment, to our family members, to our friends, to our loved ones, to our group, tribe, community, to the society. I have been quoted, and I say that, Albert Einstein had said once that in the universe, nothing happens until something moves.
Mm-hmm.
Very profound statement, like everything in the universe is motion. When things move, things change. My version of it is that in the society, nothing happens until someone communicates.
Okay.
It's only when somebody communicates either an idea, a thought, or an instruction, or say words, or demonstrate symbols, etc., that things happen in the society. What I would like to mention is that, you know, we come from similar culture. And in our culture, human being, the Arabic version of the word for human being is insan, which means it's an animal that is social. It's a social being. So for us to define ourselves in the society, we cannot define ourselves in isolation. We have to define ourselves in relation to other people. And therefore, the main purpose of communication is to make us relate to other things. So the most important thing is the relationship. And we want to have relationships with our environment, with our family, with our loved ones, with other people. And the only way we can nurture and establish it is through communication. So communication is a tool that helps us to establish relationships.
Okay. Okay.
That's why it is so important.
Right. So that's a really in-depth definition for sure. And so when you talk about communication, you're not just talking about verbal communication. You're talking about communication as a whole. So do you want to get into that a little bit? What types of communications there are?
Yes. So Albert Mehrabian, I don't know if you heard his name. He was an Armenian of Iranian origin. He's a professor in the United States. He had studied, and he said that human being generally communicates on 3 different levels. There is the verbal part, the words and the symbols that we use, the sounds that we make. That's the verbal part. The other one is the vocal part. It is how fast we speak, how loud we speak, how low, volume, pitch, etc. And then there is the visual part. He also studied, and he found out that when we communicate an idea to other people, 7% of that communication happens the words that we utter, that we use.
Only 7%?
Yes, only 7%.
Wow.
And 38% of it is the way we say it. The volume, the pitch, the pause, the speed, etc. And 55% is visual, is our body language, how we hold ourselves. And through the body language and through the vocal aspect of the communication, we find out if the person who is communicating with us is genuine and authentic or not.
Wow.
The thing is that the 7% is like the seed. Without the 7%, the other communication doesn't happen. So it is a necessary ingredient, but the meaning that is transmitted through the words actually is only around 7%.
Wow.
And that's why people who want to communicate with others, they look at all the other cues. Is the person saying in a mocking voice? Are they genuine? Are they authentic? Are they truthful or not? So James McNeill refers to it that the vocal and the visual part is really the lie detector. They say some words, but then through the other 2 aspects of communication, we find whether they are authentic or they are lying. Yeah. So
I'm so fascinated by this. So can you maybe go a little bit deeper into why we lack the skills of communication?
Okay, so let me, before we answer your question, which is a very important one, let me tell you about the way we communicate with other people and what is it that affects our communication.
Okay.
So we communicate on a spectrum, okay? At the bottom of the spectrum are the two egos of the two individuals that communicate with each other. At the top, very top, are the two souls that communicate with each other. We normal human beings oscillate between ego at the bottom and soul at the top. However, the more we communicate on a soul and spiritual level, the more transformation happens. And the more we go down the spectrum to the egos, it's just transactional communication. So there is that spectrum when we communicate. Are we communicating genuinely from our soul, from our heart, or we are just communicating to have a certain transaction? You are in the flower shop, I come and I need a bouquet of flowers. You prepare it for me, you give it to me, I give you whatever money you charge, and that's it. This is a transactional communication. However, it could be transformed into a transformational one when you explain how much of your heart and mind you put in preparing that bouquet of flowers. How much creativity went into it. And you engage the person in that kind of conversation on a higher level than just the ego.
Yes, yes.
Then you completely transform that person. That person that took the flowers from you will not be the same person that came into your flower shop, because you communicated and you changed the person, you transformed, and you were transformed by that person. Now, the reason that we don't communicate, or most people cannot communicate at that genuine level, is that communication is governed by certain rules and laws, what I refer to them as the laws of communication. Communication is governed, verbal communication, which includes the vocal part and the visual part, is governed by 7 laws of communication, by 6 ego states, and by 5 levels of intentions. And when we are not clear about what those laws are and how to utilize them, we could get into trouble and create a condition for what I refer to as difficult conversations.
Sounds complicated, Ahmed.
It is. It sounds complicated, but once you know what they are, it's very simple, actually. Let's go through the 6 ego states. Let me explain to you what the 6 ego states are. So, Dr. Eric Byrne, he's a Canadian MD and a psychoanalyst. He did a lot of research and he found out that there are coherent group of behaviors and thought processes through which we communicate. And he divided them that people actually communicate either as a parent or as an adult or as a child. He then divided that the parent could be a critical parent or a nurturing parent. And the child could be a spontaneous child, a withdrawn child, or an angry child. And then the adult. Now, conflict starts when we don't know what our communication style is. We expect and we assume that because, let's say, I am now 70 years old as I'm talking to you, I assume that whatever communication that I do with other people comes from my adult. However, as we grow up, we develop certain tendencies that either we communicate with people as critical parent or nurturing parent, or spontaneous child, or angry child, or withdrawn child. But we are not aware of it. We do it subconsciously. Yet we expect from the other side to get an adult response. But the way the communication dynamic is that when we address from my parent ego state, if I address you from that position, I'm not inviting your adult ego state. I'm inviting your child ego state to respond.
Mm-hmm.
And when you accept my invitation and from your child ego state you respond to me, that is the response wasn't what I expected. I expected an adult response. So misunderstanding happens.
Yes, miscommunication.
Miscommunication. That is a major issue in nowadays in our today's communications between spouses, between parents and children, between family members, loved ones, friends, and in society at large.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So as part of verbal Aikido, actually, people who come to verbal Aikido, we not only talk about these ego states, but we make an assessment for each individual to find out what is their, are they critical parent, or they nurturing parent, or they communicate from adult ego, or spontaneous child ego, or angry child ego, or from their withdrawn child ego. Then we tell them, now that you know your own communication style, when you are confronted with a person with a different communication style, how do you manage that? That's why verbal Aikido is on the cutting edge of the communication dynamics. It's one of the most advanced and most, how shall I say, effective tool set. It's a tool set of communication skills.
It would be. It's as if when you learn all these different communication styles, it's as if you're learning different languages that people are speaking. We're all speaking the same language, but really, it's like you said, it's a total miscommunication when we don't know where that really is coming from, right?
However, once you become aware of it, then you can control yourself and you can manage the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process, you can have ethical influence and impact on those people. Now, let me talk about the 7 laws of communication.
Okay, so do it.
Communication is governed by the 7 laws. And what in order for people to remember it, I have created an acronym for it. I call it SPA SEAT. So it's 7 letters: SPA SEAT, like
SPA,
SPA, and SEAT.
Okay.
2 words. Now, the first S stands for the law of space. So for us, in order to communicate effectively, so the assumption is that communication is like energy balls that come out of my mouth, and you hear it, and you have a container there. You have a space in which it falls. If that container is full, then it goes from one ear and gets out of the other. There is no space to catch it.
That's like my son.
Yeah. Okay, so no comment from my side. So the second one, the P, SPA-SEAT, that's the law of presence. And the law of presence that we really talk a lot about in the verbal Aikido is that for 2 people to communicate effectively, they have to both be rationally present. And rational presence means that they are able and willing
to receive,
and to talk. They are able and willing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if they are not able and willing, they cannot communicate effectively. They won't be rationally present if both sides aren't there. The other the SPA, the A stands for the law of assumptions. Now, it's like an iceberg. The words that we utter are the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot of assumptions and ideas and values that are hidden that makes us to say what we say. So to be effective, when a person says something, I have to find out what the assumptions behind they are. Okay, and once I find out, if I cannot understand it myself, I should ask some information-seeking questions so I know more about the assumption of the other person.
I like that. So don't just assume that you understand what they're saying.
Exactly.
Ask questions for clarification.
For clarification.
That's really good. We don't do that often.
In the law of space, one element is that through listening, active or empathetic listening, you can empty the container of the other person so that when your turn comes to talk, there will be a space to catch it. And that is by asking questions and then listening to it, listening and acknowledging them, and show signs of life and appreciation that yes, when what the other person is saying is important and I'm interested to listen, and I accept and I respect what the other person is saying. And as the person says, it's like a container full of water, and you open a tap, and the tap takes the water out of the container, and slowly the container becomes empty. By asking questions and by listening, we can empty the container of the other person, especially if that container is full of anger and resentment and negative emotions and feelings. We can empty it, and then they will be ready to receive. And then we can have our ideas and they can catch them.
That's a really good analogy. That's really good. So the second S is?
The second S is the law of state. The law of state says that for two people to communicate effectively, the result will be determined by the state of each individual. And that state is, are they relaxed, or they happy, or they self-confident? Do they have a lot of self-esteem? In which situation they are. For example, a person who already is employed in a corporation, he has a salary, an income, and a steady life, but he may not be happy there. So he wants to look for a better job. Because he already has an income that he can rely on, he is in a position to ask for better salary and a better job and better conditions. But imagine the same person who had a job, receives a pink slip, and he's unemployed now, and now he's looking for a job. His state suddenly changes, and now he will not be in the same position of strength and power that he can demand, or she can demand, better conditions. The power shifts from him or her to the person who hires. That's the law of state, and we elaborate on it in my book. I talk about it, of how you can change conditions so that when you are in a communication, authentic communication, and we will come to the 5 levels of intentions, of how all these ego states and the laws can be affected by the 5 levels of intention.
Amazing. That's really good.
So
that's really good.
The E stands for empathy or emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that means that you can look at it several ways. You can understand people much better if you show empathy, if you can imagine and feel yourself in their shoes.
Yes.
This is one way of looking at it. The
Mm-hmm.
other way of the law of empathy is that, or emotional intelligence, is that a person who gets on a corporate ladder in a company high up, the trip upward is determined by their IQ. How big their IQ is to understand the complexities of an organization will go there. But to stay there, their staying power in that position depends on their EQ and their emotional intelligence.
Yes.
How they can relate to the environment, how much they are aware of their own emotions, and how they can manage their, control their own emotions, and how they can talk about other people. There is a call coming, so the screen is off.
That's okay. We just keep talking till
we'll
you're
talk.
back on. So this is really good. Emotional intelligence is not something that we put too much emphasis on a daily basis, but I think
it is extremely important.
Oh my gosh.
And by the way, verbal Aikido is a combination of communication science, the ego space that I talked about, the laws of communication, combined with emotional intelligence, and the non-adversarial philosophy of Aikido. Aikido is not a combat martial art.
No, it isn't.
Partnership. It's a partnership.
Yes.
Okay, so if you have time, you might come to it. So the second A in the seat is the law of acknowledgement. And the law of acknowledgement says that when you communicate with other person, you have to acknowledge their presence at the same footing by showing signs, by appreciating them, by paying attention, by being focused on them, by asking them questions to keep their interest, and by encouraging them to open up and talk more.
Showing signs of life.
Yes, exactly. Showing signs of life. By the way, acknowledgement is a law of communication, but in every other thing also, acknowledgement is one of my teachers near Ezra. He says that acknowledgement is the most powerful healer. We can heal that are broken through acknowledgement. We can heal body parts through acknowledgement. We can acknowledge our heart, our mind, our hands, the 11 major organs or systems that comprise our body. We can acknowledge them, and suddenly we acquire excellent health, optimal health and fitness. For your viewers and maybe for you, let me give you an example of how effective it is. Okay, this is the example that sometimes I use in my workshops. You know, in the hands, there are these horizontal lines. You can see them. There are these horizontal lines.
Yes.
When you put these horizontal lines together, they line up, and you close your hands. Some people find out that one hand is bigger than the other one.
Yes, mine is for sure.
Okay, so is mine. So now if you take the shorter one and keep it in front of you, the shorter hand, and keep it in front of you, and you acknowledge it, and you say, repeat it with me, and maybe your viewers can do the same thing. And you tell your hand, say that, I love you.
I love you.
I adore you.
I adore you.
I acknowledge you.
I acknowledge you.
I like you.
I like you.
You are much bigger than what you have shown up.
You are much bigger than the way you have shown up.
Yeah. I love you. Exactly. And now you hold them again together the same way.
Let me see. Let's try this. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
It stands up taller somehow.
Okay. That is the law of acknowledgement, how it works. I also tell people that, by the way, this acknowledgement exercise works only for the hands. It doesn't work for other body parts.
Yeah, people, listen to what you say. That's funny. We can't
There are
taller.
There are other exercises, and if people want to know more about it, they can send me a private message.
Or come to your verbal Aikido.
Yeah.
That's funny. Thank you for that laugh. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the T,
the
Ahmed.
T is the law of truth. And the law of truth says that we all look at truth differently, and what you consider truth may be different than what I consider. And if we put an object, let's say a glass of water on a table, and there are 5 or 10 or 100 people around it, and we tell them that take a piece of paper and pen and describe what you see, the truth of what you see on the table, the glass of water with water in it, you will not find two writings to be identical.
No, I can see that for sure. That's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So confusion happens when me, from my ego state, determine that my truth is the only truth, and if other people see it differently, they're wrong.
Oh, that's the root of so many problems. And
exactly. So that's it.
Amazing.
So these are the 7 laws of once people learn it, they can suddenly communicate on a completely different level, and perhaps 70 to 80% of their difficult conversations, they just vanish.
You know, it's really amazing. I mean, just by bringing awareness to this, to these laws, to these concepts, we can be so much better off.
Yes,
we can just take a second longer to think about it.
That's true.
Oh my gosh, that I can see our relationships getting better. I can see our you know, we have a better work relationship with our colleagues. Just in general, society would work better. It would change lives. This is amazing. Wow.
Yeah. So let me tell you about the 5 levels of intentions.
Do tell.
So when we interact with other people through communications, we have one of the 5 different objectives or intentions. And it's from those intentions that we communicate. One of them is gain. So I talk to you or talk with you or have a transaction with you, and my intention is that I benefit from it and I have a gain or a win. Okay? I don't care if you win, if you have a gain or not. My intention is that I gain. This is one intention, one level of intention. The second level of intention is that I interact with a person with the intention that I gain and the other person experiences pain. And this is very common. Bullying is one of them, and so many other things that on a day-to-day, we see people who indulge in this intention.
Yes.
The other level of intention is that pain gain, that I accept a lower level of pain in order to avoid a bigger pain, as long as the other person experiences a feeling of gain.
When do we do that?
This happens in abusive relationships. When people are indulged in abusive relationships, the victim usually will accept a lower level of pain in order to avoid a bigger pain. So the abuser experiences a feeling of gain.
Yes, I can see that. Yeah.
The 4th level is pain. I come with the intention that as long as the other person experiences pain, I accept pain myself also.
I don't care if I, yeah, if I,
Yes,
yeah.
okay. So when these two countries, they go to wars usually, two
Yeah.
countries that go to wars, and they, you know, they sacrifice their youth and their young people in the war. Both sides are losing, right? But one say that, okay, I accept this pain as long as the other side also experience pain. And even in personal relationships, it happens. I give you an example. That was told to me that there was a couple who were in a divorce conflict. They had very bad relationships and they decided to divorce. And the man had a sports car that was worth perhaps $85,000. The judge ordered that the car be sold and the money be divided equally between the husband and wife. This man was so angry that didn't want his former wife to enjoy the money that will come from. He sold the car for $2,000 instead of it was worth, $80,000 or something like that, so that she gets 1,000, and doesn't matter if he gets 1,000 also.
Yes, that's so sad.
It's sad, but there are people. It happens. It's one of those intentions that affects our communication and our relationships with people.
Yes.
The final one is a gain intention, that I come to this transaction or to this communication or establish this relationship with the intention that not only I gain, but the other person also gain from it.
This seems like the only sane way. Like it seems like the only way.
The only sustainable way.
Yes.
In the long run, and here is where when you add these 5 levels of intentions with the 6 ego states, combine them. The person comes from an angry child ego state and has an intention to inflict pain on the other person, want gain for themselves or no gain, and they are not aware of the 7 laws of communications. It really becomes ugly.
Yes. And imagine if you understand the laws of communication and you have the intention of really getting this sort of transaction, a gain transaction. Imagine how much better we do in life.
That is communication at the level of the souls.
And this is what you
transform. Yes, you transform each other through that kind of communication.
Amazing. And you teach this at Verbal Aikido.
The Verbal Aikido gives you, it's a toolkit. It's a set of tools where you can manage all of these through them.
Yes.
So if a person comes with an intention to harm you, you have the tools of enlightened assertiveness that you can deploy that will make you immune from being hurt. The Verbal Aikido gives the person who master it to communicate honestly, openly, respectfully, and directly with calm confidence and safe strength without feeling guilty or tearing the other person apart.
That sounds like a superpower.
It is a superpower. That's why it's like if you are in martial art and you have a black belt, 10th dan or 11th dan, black belt, you will feel like a superman or a super person, let's say, to speak correctly, superwoman or superman or super person, because you will have the confidence that you are okay. That is where you can show humility. As James McNeil, my mentor, he says that humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less.
Mm-hmm.
Said that.
Mm-hmm. I
I'm
love
okay.
that quote. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay. Let's see how can I serve you. And that comes with this non-adversarial philosophy of Aikido that he has combined with the emotional intelligence and with the communication science. So that a person who becomes a verbal Aikidoka can control self, manage interactions, and influence people ethically with the gain-gain philosophy.
The only way to do it. The
Yeah.
only way. Wow. If someone was interested in taking your verbal Aikido workshop, Ahmed, how can they do that? How can they reach you? I know that you're, do you still have space?
Yes, we always have space, even though we take a small group of people because we want to spend more time with each individual there. And so there is more interaction between people and the exercises that we do.
So excited. I'm so excited.
So I believe there might still be places for a couple, 2-3 people, if they are interested. They can go to either my website, which is duranet.ca.
I'm gonna post this under the post. Yeah. And could you give our audience a little discount if they were to
okay, so yes, yeah, sure. I think we had talked about
yes.
You kind of twisted my arm a little bit on that, and I said that yes, I will do it. So if they go to my website duranet.ca and they press on verbal Aikido, it will take them to a place where they can register. So they can register in several ways. Either they go to Eventbrite, where the link is there, to Eventbrite, and they can use a code verbal 101.
Okay.
And it will give them a $200 discount.
Okay, that's great.
Or if they want to send it directly to me, e-transfer, then they can do that also. They can remove the $200 from it, from the price that is given there, and then they can send me directly.
Perfect.
Through the email, and then they can send me the security code. There is a telephone number that is given there. They can send me the security code as a text message.
Awesome.
The program is on the weekend of March 7 and 8, and it is in Mississauga. And if they want to register, they have to do it in the next couple of days, because on Monday, we collect all the names and we need to write the certificates and to create, we give binders to people. So this program is not just you come there and we talk and you take a couple of notes or something and then you go. This is a real education. We give them a binder. Every slide description is in the page. There is space for taking notes. And then there are places for exercises where we put people together. You do exercises, real life situations.
Amazing, amazing. I can't wait to take this workshop and learn a few things. It sounds amazing, amazing.
Well, I look forward to meeting you there with other people who want to become verbal Aikidokas. And I hope some of your audience will also join us.
I hope so too. I hope so too. There's a lot of value in learning more communication skills. It helps us. It helps us every day. I mean, I can't I can't imagine having a better tool in building relationships.
So let me tell you my 7 decades of experience, what I have learned. You know, I believe I might have told you that I grew up in a rural area of in the Middle East, in Afghanistan, and I grew up to be extremely shy and timid. It was a very rough area. It's an area where still there is no water and there is no running water in homes and no electricity. Only some well-off people have these solar panels that give them some light. I grew up there in a family where my father was a very dominant figure. He was a tribal elder and leader, very influential person. The side effect was that I grew up to be very shy. I also grew up in that part of the world where the women didn't count.
Yes.
And where manhood was determined by whether you can use a gun, not how old you are. So I grew up in that situation. And it was only using the principles of verbal Aikido, even though I didn't know about verbal Aikido, but the ability to listen, the ability to focus on certain things that give me the strength, you know, to excel academically. And then I ended up where I am now. So in these 70 years, what I found out that the quality of our life depends on the quality of our relationships. And the quality of our relationships depend on the quality of our communication skills. So no matter how good people are, there is still space to improve your communication skills and improve the quality of your relationships and the quality of your life.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, this is amazing, Ahmed. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For going into so much depth in this. There's so much to learn. I really enjoyed this talk tonight. Hopefully in the future you'll come back on the show and we'll pick this up and you can go deeper into leadership and all these other wonderful things that you know all about. And
yes, I said I hope your viewers will get the benefit of what we share, of what you and I share, and they will use it. And I hope that they will share it with their friends, but also reach us, and perhaps see some of them in the Verbal Aikido workshop to benefit from it. I mentioned there is no limit to how much improvement what one can do in their communication skills and by virtue in their relationships and by virtue in the quality of their lives.
Yes, there we go. Here's to better communication and better relationships and therefore better lives. What do you say?
Yes.
Good.
It's a great way of putting it. And I thank you for inviting me to be on your show. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it also.
Absolutely. Look at me. I'm enjoying. This is a face of someone who enjoyed this conversation. Thank you very much. So if there's nothing else, then we'll just say goodbye and hope to see you soon, Ahmed, on this show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I think we already spoke long enough that might become boring for some people, even though I can speak for hours and hours. But we will end it here, and perhaps we'll have opportunities to share our views again on this or other issues.
Sounds good. I really appreciate it. I
You.
think it was a great talk. And again, I thank you. I'm so grateful to have you on the show. And with this, thank you everybody for tuning in to Della's Voice. And as always, this is Della, hoping to spark your soul. Till next time.